When it comes to judoka who cross the seas to compete against fighters of other disciplines, the first name that usually comes to mind is Conde Koma. However, in reality, there were many other judoka who also had careers involving similar mixed-style bouts. Yamashita Yoshitsugu, the first in judo history to be awarded the rank of 10th dan. He was regarded as one of the four guardians of the Kodokan, defeating numerous practitioners of other schools, winning mixed-style matches against boxers and wrestlers, becoming the first to teach Kodokan judo overseas, and even serving as the judo instructor to a U.S. president. This time, we will introduce the life of such a formidable figure from the early days of judo, Yamashita Yoshitsugu. Yamashita was born on February 16, 1865, into a samurai family of the Odawara domain. He entered the Kodokan in 1884, and later distinguished himself in inter-school matches, including those held by the Tokyo Metropolitan Police. Both in the past and today, Japanese police practice judo and kendo. The Jujutsu Sawagakari, Jujutsu Instructors Organizers, was established in 1883, 4 years after the Gekken Sawagakari, Swordsmanship Instructors. In the autumn of 1882, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police sent a letter inviting the jujutsu practitioner Saizo Shimosaka to serve as the first chief instructor. Based on his recommendation, Tetsutaro Hisatomi, Shibukawa Ryu, Danzo Naka, Sekiguchi Shinshin Ryu, Shogo Uehara, Ryoi Shinto Ryu, and Hansuke Nakamura, Ryoi Shinto Ryu, came to Tokyo in March of the following year. In January of that same year, an internal directive was issued to all police stations stating that all police officers should train in jujutsu just as they do in swordsmanship. The kata of Keishicho-ryu jujutsu was subsequently established by these instructors. Around 1888, Kodokan Judo, then an emerging force in the jujutsu world, participated in the Tokyo Metropolitan Police martial arts tournament. Competitors from the Kodokan included Shiro Saigo, Yoshitsugu Yamashita, Sakujiro Yokoyama, Tsunejiro Tomita, Junbun Arima, Hoken Iwasaki, Keijiro Kawai, Itsuro Munakata, Bunzo Saodai, Katsukazu Otsubo, Katsutaro Oda, and Shinroku Yoshimura. They mainly faced practitioners from the school of Hikosuke Totsuka of Yoshin-ryu. This was a decisive tournament in which the winning school would effectively become the national standard, making it a contest that could not be lost. With the exception of a few draws, the Kodokan won, leading to its adoption by the Tokyo Metropolitan Police, a commonly accepted account that continues to this day. One of the police's fiercest fighters, if I recall correctly, Instructor Nakamura, faced Yoshitsugu Yamashita. From beginning to end, Nakamura attempted to bring the fight to the ground, constantly advancing on his knees and looking for any opportunity to pull Yamashita down and apply a hold. However, Yamashita skillfully created openings to force him to stand and then threw him repeatedly. From this account, it is clear that Yamashita refused to engage in groundwork with Nakamura, instead forcing him to stand and repeatedly executing throwing techniques, ultimately achieving a decisive victory. Around 1890, Yamashita was serving as a judo instructor at Keiogi-juku. In September 1901, one of his students left to study at Yale University. Through this connection, a request was made by James J. Hill, inviting Yamashita Yoshitsugu to come to the United States. Accepting this request, Yamashita decided to travel to America in 1902, some sources say 1903, accompanied by his beloved wife, Fudeko. This marked the first overseas instruction in the history of Kodokan Judo. Approximately 10 years later, in 1912, Mitsuyo Maeda, known as Conde Koma, Tokugoro Ito, Shinshiro Satake, and Akitaro Ono traveled to Cuba, where they became known as the Four Guardians of Cuba. However, according to Judo in the US, Yamashita did not stay long with Hill. The reason appears to be that Hill's original plan to train his son in judo was opposed by Mrs. Hill and ultimately fell through. Yamashita then began teaching judo at the Japanese legation in the United States. There, Naval Attaché Lieutenant Colonel Isamu Takashita was stationed, and through his introduction, Yamashita, then a sixth Dan, was granted an audience with U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt soon became his student, formally observing the teacher-disciple relationship. Yamashita taught not only at the White House, but also at the Naval Academy, Harvard University, and to prominent figures in political and financial circles. His wife, Fudeko, also donned a judo uniform and taught women of high society. Among her students were young ladies who were granddaughters of General Robert E. Lee, the famed Confederate commander during the American Civil War, and they reportedly trained with great enthusiasm. Although detailed records of Yamashita's activities in America are scarce, the following anecdote remains. In February 1904, during a snowstorm in New York, rumors spread of a match between a boxer known as the Hell Wolf, Lively, and the Japanese judoka Yamashita. Lively was a fearsome fighter, renowned across North America for his brutality. If he fights Lively, the Japanese judoka might be killed. It's far too reckless a match. Such rumors circulated widely. Hearing of this clash between a brutal boxer and a Japanese judoka, the citizens of New York watched with bated breath, and an excited crowd packed the venue. At the sound of the opening gong, Lively unleashed fierce fire-like straight punches. Yamashita's face quickly swelled and turned purple, and the Japanese spectators in attendance watched in deep anxiety. Covered in blood, Yamashita did not falter. He leapt onto Lively, seized his arm, and executed a brilliant koshi-guruma hip wheel, throwing the large opponent to the ground. In this way, Yamashita emerged victorious from what was truly a life-or-death struggle. Furthermore, Yamashita is said to have fought a major match in front of Theodore Roosevelt against a wrestler named Jokeland, who was considered the best in America. In the match, Yamashita used his signature techniques to throw his opponent, resulting in Jokeland's left arm being broken in the process. This victory caused the fame of judo to spread throughout the United States. Just as judo had once achieved overwhelming victories over traditional jujutsu and proven its superiority, Yamashita demonstrated its excellence once again on American soil. It is said that he returned to Japan in May 1906 upon the completion of his contract with Roosevelt. In July 1906, Master Kano traveled to Kyoto accompanied by 5 attendants. The purpose of the trip was for him to attend, as chairman, the Dai Nippon Butokukai Judo Kata Establishment Committee. Among the 5 attendants was Yamashita. This can be seen as evidence that even after his return to Japan, Yamashita continued to be highly regarded and deeply trusted by Kano. Incidentally, the other attendants were Yokoyama Sakujiro, Isogai Hajime, Sato Hoken, and Nagaoka Hideichi. Of these, Isogai and Nagaoka were later promoted to 10th Dan, the first individuals to receive this rank not posthumously. The Kyoto trip was thus composed of an exceptionally distinguished and elite group. The establishment of kata by the Dai Nippon Butokukai refers to an event in which, up until the Edo period, various martial arts schools each had their own forms, kata. The Butokukai, an organization that oversaw Japanese martial arts at the time, sought to standardize forms across schools. Leading figures from various jujutsu traditions, including the Kodokan, gathered, about 20 in total, to discuss and unify kata. Yamashita was selected as one of the committee members. In 1924, he also contributed significantly to the creation of the Kishicho Torite no Kata, arresting forms of the Metropolitan Police Department, developing techniques better suited for apprehending suspects. Incidentally, Tori Taijutsu, arresting techniques, predates jujutsu and is sometimes considered one of its roots, alongside kumiuchi, grappling, and kogusoku techniques. Although the Edo period was an era of peace following centuries of warfare among armored samurai, those who functioned as police at the time were required to capture criminals alive, even those armed with swords, without killing them. To accomplish this, they used specialized tools known as the Torimono Mitsudogu, 3 arresting implements, as well as a weapon called the jita. Ultimately, they subdued suspects using techniques similar to jujutsu and restrained them with rope. This entire system of apprehension is known as hojojutsu. Each of the 3 arresting tools had numerous spikes along the shaft on the side that came into contact with the suspect, preventing them from grabbing it. The tsukibo was used to maintain distance, while the sodagarami, literally meaning entangling the sleeve, was used to pierce and pull the wide sleeves of garments like kimono or yukata, thereby controlling the suspect's movement. Of these tools, the sasumata is still used in modern-day arrests. When dealing with criminals such as samurai or ronin who were skilled with swords, officers would also surround them using ladders before capturing them. The jita served not only to parry and control sword attacks, but also functioned as a symbol of rank within the policing organization, similar to a badge. By the time Yamashita became involved in the development of the Metropolitan Police's Torit no Kata, 46 years had already passed since the enactment of the Haitere Edict. In this era, techniques designed to counter sword attacks were no longer the primary concern. Instead, what was required were methods for subduing an opponent empty-handed. In other words, the techniques of jujutsu. It is therefore likely that Yamashita, with his extensive practical experience, was specifically chosen for this role. In his later years, when Kano Jigoro performed demonstrations of classical kata, he frequently selected Yamashita as his uke, receiving partner. This can be seen as clear evidence of the complete trust Kano placed in him. On October 26, 1935, Yamashita passed away. The following is the farewell address delivered by Kano Jigoro. You remained under my tutelage for more than 50 years. Throughout that time, you consistently supported the work of the Kodokan and contributed greatly to the development of Judo. When you first entered my school in 1884, you quickly distinguished yourself. While still in your 20s, you competed against leading jujutsu masters from across the country and consistently demonstrated superior skill. In 1888, when Judo was first introduced as part of the curriculum at the Naval Academy, you were appointed as its first instructor and fulfilled your duties with excellence. In each of these roles, you achieved remarkable results. Moreover, you traveled abroad to teach Judo, thus opening the path for its spread throughout the world. Today, the Kodokan, under the broad policy of strengthening the substance of Judo domestically while promoting and disseminating it internationally, calls for the united efforts of all its members. At such a time, the loss of a disciple like you, one whom I trusted above all others and who stood among the highest ranks of the Kodokan, is my deepest regret. Therefore, I present to you the following words of commendation. You always upheld my teachings, mastered both kata and randori, and attained the highest level of technical proficiency. Throughout your life, you devoted yourself unwaveringly to the propagation of this way. Its results spread widely across the nation and reached far beyond, extending overseas. Your achievements are truly outstanding. Now that you have passed from this world to the next, I bid you eternal farewell. In recognition of your merit, I hereby confer upon you the rank of 10th Dan. November 24, 1935, Kodokan Master Kano Jigoro.
JapanB is a channel that randomly shares information about lesser-known aspects of Japanese culture, spanning across various genres.